Hey, Successors, before we get into the show today, I'd like to tell you about my new book, Indulge Your Affirmative Motivation Within, 25 Motivations of Personal Development and Life Success. If you're struggling to stay motivated or just need a little boost, check out the ways that I've stayed motivated over the last few years. Go ahead and go over to Amazon.com and grab yourself a copy. That's Indulge Your Affirmative Motivation Within, 25 Motivations of Personal Development and Life Success. Get it now. On with the show.
Success. Media. Network.
This is your show.
Good day, Successors. I'm Antonio Holman, and welcome to the 4 Principles of Success number 60, where I chat with successful people and entrepreneurs about how they enhance their businesses and lives in the areas of knowledge, health, wealth, and spirituality. And if you want to learn how I've stayed motivated throughout the years, check out my new book, Indulge Your Affirmative Motivation Within, 25 Motivations of Personal Development and Life Success, now on Amazon. Today we're talking to Dave Sanderson. Dave is located in Charlotte, North Carolina, and is a former security director for Tony Robbins, inspirational speaker, and author of the book, Moments Matter, How One Defining Moment Can Create a Lifetime of Purpose, whose thoughts on leadership have made him an internationally sought-out speaker. When US Airways Flight 1549, or the Miracle on the Hudson, ditched into the Hudson River on January 15, 2009, Dave knew he was exactly where he was supposed to be. The last passenger off the back of the plane on that fateful day, he was largely responsible for the well-being and safety of others, risking his own life in the frigid waters to help other passengers off. Despite the hazards to himself, Dave thought only of helping others and emerged from the wreckage with a mission: to encourage others to do the right thing. Today he travels the globe, sharing his inspirational and motivational leadership messages to help people make a difference in how they do business and live their lives. Dave, are you ready to help our listeners prepare for success?
Let's go get some success.
All right, Dave. So, aside from your busy world, let's get into what you do in your personal life.
Well, in my personal life now, which has changed dramatically after the plane crashed into the Hudson River. It's I spend a lot of time basically with chasing my kids and doing sort of following what they're doing right now, because for 30 plus years of being in sales executive, and then working with Tony Robbins on traveling with him, it was a lot of time I missed being around my family. So now in my personal time, if I'm home, it's usually around catching kids' games, taking kids places and things like that.
Now, here's the obvious question. Well, it's obvious for me personally, at least. How'd you land that gig with Tony?
Well, that's an interesting story because, back in the early 90s, I was one of those people who went to one of his seminars, got a lot of results because I took action like he tells you to take action. So I needed some more. I needed some more energy. So I signed up to volunteer at his events. And so I would pay my own way and basically be one of those folks that would, at midnight while everybody else is going home, be putting brochures down on the seats for the next day. But one day we were actually in Maui, Hawaii, at one of the events, and I was volunteering. And his former wife was in a sort of talking to 2 gentlemen, and she couldn't seem to get away from them. So I went up and told her that Mr. Robbins needed her in the back. And as I was walking her back, she said, "You did that pretty well. Would you like to be on the security team?" I'm like, "That's a lot better than handing out brochures." And she put me on Tony in the back door of the green room where he comes in and out. And I sat there for 4 days, not moving. I basically just sat there watching and making sure the door was handled. But I saw how things were getting handled. And, I did that for a couple events, and then he got some certainty in me. So he asked me if I would sit on his backstage, on his left shoulder, on his backstage, and I did that. And then I started growing through that. He started getting more certainty with me and belief in me, and I started, working with the team. And all of a sudden, one day, I was asked to be the assistant head of security, which meant that I managed a team at the events. And then the head of security, he took another position, so he asked me if I'd be the head of security, and which means I was not only responsible for the team, but responsible for him and his logistics, and which that's how I got to be that role. But I was very blessed. It came out of service, and candidly, I tell people, that's if you want to grow and have success, give first and add value, and all of a sudden things will come to you.
Yeah, that always seems to prove to be true in almost every single situation. I love it. Dave, now you are a speaker and author, but what was your life like before the incident in 2009?
Well, as I mentioned, I was in sales for 30 plus years. I worked for a few different sales organizations, and the last organization I was with was by a company by the name of Oracle. So I was, responsible for the sales and sales management of a division in the Southeast. So I was traveling 3-4 days a week, 40 to 50 weeks a year. So I was always on the road, marketing primarily technology services and technology products. So, and I grew through that. I started out in, payroll services, like a lot of people do, just the basic up and down the street. But for 30 plus years, I was in sales, and in addition to doing what I was doing with Tony.
When Flight 1549 went down, what was it inside of you that drove you to do the right thing?
Well, candidly, my game plan, Antonio, was just to get to the aisle, get up and get out. I'm not going to sugarcoat and say I was going to be very virtuous and do it. It wasn't that way. My goal was to do that. But when I got to the aisle, something happened that sort of gave me a different perspective. And my mother, who had passed away in 1997, talked to me in my head and said something to me that she said to me when I was a kid. And I heard it again. Said, if you do the right thing, God will take care of you. And the right thing for me is you take care of other people first. See, I grew up, playing sports and athletics and Boy Scouts, and I was always around a group of guys. And the people I was hanging with, we always had each other's backs. So that's why I went towards the back of the plane to see if anybody needed help. And once we got everybody out, I started making my way out of the plane. But when I got to the right door on 10F, I was starting to get out on the wing just like everybody else. But there was no room on the wing or the boat for me. So that's why I was inside the plane, waist deep in 36-degree water, holding on to the lifeboat close to the wing for about 7 minutes.
How much of that plane was still intact? Was there anything broken off of it?
Yeah, of course, this is retrospective because after you see it coming out of the water, the left engine was extremely damaged, which if you saw the movie Sully, that was a point of contention for a lot of people. The right engine was definitely damaged likewise, and there was a big gash in the back of the plane. So there was, and I just did a tour. The plane is here in Charlotte at the Carolinas Aviation Museum, so I get to do tours and take people there and do events there, and so I get to show people how this plane was really the way it looked when it came out of the water, and now once you see it wasn't totally intact. He did a tremendous job getting it down in one piece, but there was some damage.
So the movie Sully was based specifically on this incident?
It was not based on this. It was based on Captain Sullenberger's life, but since this was a situation that basically put him from to fame, it was probably 80% of the movie Sully. Yes.
When faced with emergency and tragic situations, some people have moments of PTSD that prevent them from being helpful in serious situations. You, on the other hand, experienced a moment of growth. What was the growth you experienced, and how did it happen during such a deadly situation?
Well, what we found out, if you saw the movie Sully, and people who have seen it saw that Captain Sullenberger, like a lot of the passengers, were suffering from different ranges of depression all the way to PTSD. But I didn't. And one of the reasons I think I didn't is because I started going out and speaking the week after the plane crash, and I was doing a lot of media like we all were, but I did a lot of media, and I started speaking, and I started getting out of my body, and I started asking myself, why didn't I get depressed like a lot of other people did? Because people, that night in the hospital, I had hypothermia, and I had mental health people come by and say, by the way, you're going to have depression, you're going to have these times, you need to get some help. But I never did. And it was all the way a couple of the things I talk about in my TED Talk about this is the way I managed my state that day, which means how I managed my mind, but more importantly, the meaning I attached to it. Where a lot of people attached a negative meaning or a difficult meaning to it, it was a meaning of a blessing. And basically when you look at the meanings you attach things, they produce the emotion in your life, and emotion is your life. So the emotion I got out was a blessing and gratitude, where a lot of people took it a different way, and that's where I think I started growing from this experience.
Were there any skills that you acquired in sales and your security director position with Tony Robbins that came to the surface in this situation?
Most definitely. Tony and I have had this conversation, and there are really two that I talk about a lot. There was a lot that other ones that I think had certain aspects, but the two key ones was, number one, like I mentioned, state management, or how to manage your mind. And Tony teaches this, and it's about through your physiology or the questions you ask yourself or what you focus on. And so I definitely use that skill set of managing my mind, because one thing you realize, Antonio, when you're going down in a plane crash, that you have no control. And the only thing you can control is your mind. So I use that skill to ask myself different questions as we were going down and then making my way out of the plane. But the second one that I used, I think impacted probably me and hopefully others more importantly, was the skill set of sensory acuity. And I talk about this as about, the different modalities people communicate and relate in. And there's, 5 different senses that people have, but 3 really drive the way you communicate. One is, visually, auditorily, and kinesthetically. And I used that skill set when there was a lady on the wing that wasn't moving and she was holding on to a baby. And I used the skill set of sensory acuity by going very high auditory, which means I yelled at her to get her attention, because visually she was not there, and kinesthetically she was afraid. So I just used the skill set of auditory, which means I yelled at her and get her attention, and then I could communicate with her effectively. So I think those 2 skill sets were the primary skill sets that I used, not only learning from Tony, but I used that in sales, Antonio. I was fortunately, I was a top producer in every company that I worked in, and I used these skill sets and working in my sales and sales management position to help people hopefully make the right decision.
Wow, that's powerful. Those are powerful skills. And now, there's one thing you did mention was the lack of having control, which made my mind go to the fact that I don't like riding roller coasters because I feel out of control and anything can happen at that point, which is the similarity to being on a plane.
Right.
And life is like a roller coaster. I mean, it's up and down all the time. Nothing's ever perfect. Now, I'm not sure if this experience was your time, but what was that time throughout your journey when you felt most unsuccessful in your life?
There were probably a couple times. The first time was right out of college. Where, and if you go to college, you're 4 years, I mean, it's like fantasy land. I don't care what people say. It's a great 4 years. Hopefully you do well in school, but it's fantasy land. And you're pretty much in a controlled environment. And all of a sudden you graduate. And I told my kids this, and I tell youth when I speak, the worst day of your life is the day after college. You graduate, because, man, what are you going to do now, right? And you have to go out and start growing up to be a big girl or a big boy. And yeah. I think that was a difficult time, because I always had a lot of certainty in myself until back in the early 80s, when that's when I graduated from. I had no control. I couldn't find a job, and the economy was not doing well. And my dad gave me 30 days to get out of the house. I moved back. He said, in 30 days, you got to be out of the house. You got to have a job. And my dad was one of those guys that what he said, he meant. So we got the 30 days, and I didn't have a job. So what he did is he found a job for me, which was in restaurant management, which I knew zero about, Antonio. I knew nothing about going to a kitchen except to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So it's, but he said, I lined this up for you. Go talk to the gentleman. And I became a restaurant manager, and it taught me a great skill set on how to work with people. That was a tremendous skill set that I've used the rest of my life. But that was probably the scariest time when I had total uncertainty in my life. Wow.
What was your most challenging client-related situation, and how did you resolve it? You do coaching as well, correct?
Yep, most definitely. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate you asking, because you know what? No one's asked me that for many years, and I'll tell you exactly what it was, because as soon as you said that, it came to my mind. I was actually at that point with KPMG Consulting. I was one of the big 5 firms, and we were working with a client. I won't say the client's name, but we were working with one of the major clients that everybody who's listening has had use their product in their life. Everybody. And we had a chance to do a project for them, but we were on the outside looking in. And, I was a manager at that point, and I had partners working with it. If you know how a big 5 firm works, right? The partner sort of manages the relationship, and the manager goes out and basically does all the grunt work. But we were in a situation where we were behind. We knew we were behind, and we had to pull something out. And I threw out something to the team, which was radical at that point. And I said, one of the things we don't understand about this client is how to work with the client. And I said, obviously the other firm has been working with this client. So what we did, and we took an act of God almost, because we had to give up a relationship to be able to do that. Another relationship with a product that everybody on this who's listening has used their product likewise, one of their biggest competitor. And we went out and we hired an attorney that used to work for the company we were pursuing, who could tell us how to work the inner workings of that company. And we hired him. And that was a risky situation because we had to pay him some top dollar. The lawyers are not inexpensive. I've never been dealt with a lawyer, Antonio, but they're not inexpensive. No. And we hired him to be on our team, and he taught us the insides and out of how to work with this company. And we all of a sudden procured a multi-million-dollar engagement because we understood how to work with the client, because we went outside the box. And I just threw it out as a lark. It's like, we got to do something radical. Because I learned that skill, Antonio, from Tony Robbins. If you want to change anything, you got to do something radical to break yourself out of that state to do something different. So I just use that same mentality as we got to do something radical here, or we're not going to win anything. So that was, and that client, I don't know how they're doing now. It's been several years since that situation, but it was one of the most unique things I've ever done, and it taught me to think outside the box, to do radical stuff to help people get their outcomes.
What do you feel was one of the hardest things in your business to overcome that you've since conquered?
Well, I don't know if I've conquered it yet, and I would say right now, since I've moved to having my own business, the one thing I could always do well was drive revenue, because that's what I did for 30 years. So driving revenue has always been a skill set that I've had. But what I didn't have, and the biggest challenge, was the back end, is managing the business side, getting the collections and payables and receivables and all those things. And I got way behind, which, when you're not used to doing the back end and you do it on the front end, you don't know where the money's going, and now you're not collecting. That was the most challenging time I've had in business for the last several years. And the way I solved that is, basically I hired a virtual assistant to basically help me get in alignment and make sure this situation, this process was fixed. And we're still working on it. It's still never 100%, but it's improved dramatically. At least we've got our cash flow in alignment right now in doing that. So that was probably the biggest challenge I had.
Is there something that comes to mind that you're currently struggling with in your business?
One of my business partners that I work with, his name's Aaron Walker. He's out of Nashville, Tennessee, and he said something a few weeks ago to me. It's true. Is that revenue solves most problems. So you can never have enough revenue. So now is flipping this 180 degrees is putting the systems in place. Not only me driving revenue, which I can do, but having that passive income revenue generated in a way that I can serve people at the same time, but not only use my own skill sets and my time, and leveraging my time.
What do you feel is your one biggest business triumph to date?
I think the biggest triumph that I've had a lot. I was number one, like I said, I've been the top sales producer in every company, and that was where I've received a lot of honors and credit for that. But in the business world, I would say, making the decision to go out on my own, because it was scary. And then, candidly, I wasn't scared, but my wife was, because my wife lives in a world of certainty. She's always grown up that way, and now you're telling her she's gone through uncertainty once with me going down to a plane crash, and all of a sudden things are coming at us left and right. But now I want to make the leap to leave my company and start from zero a business, and I've still got 4 kids to get through college. I think that was the moment.
That scared the hell out of her, I guess, huh?
It did. It probably still does. Yeah. Like we said, she's the one that says drive revenue, right? So she's also on the back end of go sell something, because that's what I did for 30 plus years.
What do you feel is your one biggest personal triumph today?
Oh, I think having my kids, number one, graduate and being successful. And I think taking that one step further is, you hear a lot about a lot of these, unfortunately, a lot of these kids who get out of college that go back home and live with their parents, and, because they're either not motivated or don't have the right skill sets or don't have a job. Where 2 of my, 4 kids who are out of college, both have gotten jobs, got out, and been successful. I think that's my biggest triumph. I think looking back, we made a lot of mistakes, I'm sure we did. But you look at them now as they're successful, they're out of college, they have their own jobs, and they're living their lives the way they want to live them, and I think that's me and my wife's greatest success.
Mm-hmm. You did something right. That's good. Hang tight, successors. We'll return to our conversation with Dave Sanderson, as well as quick success after a word from our sponsors. Podcasters, want more listeners? Check out promosharecast.com and join the community today. That's promosharecast.com. Join today and get the first month free, and you'll also receive 50% off for a lifetime membership. Sign up today. PromoSharecast.com. Are you a tense, tired, busy person who works day in and day out who tends to lack the proper sleep and energy? Using modular supplements, health-related articles, recipes, life hacks, and more, Bellison can help. With quality as high as Bellison, you're buying from a company that cares about the environment and only uses premium vegan supplements. That's Bellison.com. Want to learn how to cook healthy, exercise, and meditate in just 30 minutes a day? Bellison.com. Want to feel healthy, energetic, and focused like me? Bellison.com. To receive a 10% discount at checkout. Whoa, hold on. Now receive even more health benefits with a 20% discount at checkout. Go to Bellison.com with the coupon code the4POS to get your 20% off now. Visit Bellison.com. That's BELISAN.com. Compassion and quality without compromise. Bellison.com. Are you tired of trying every new diet fad? Sick of the pills, shakes, and vibrating belts? Are you just sick and tired of being sick and tired? Linda Lavender knows exactly how you feel. That's why she created Eat to Live to Love. Eat to Live to Love is a personalized mentoring program 100% unique to you. With 24/7 support, learn to shop smart, save money, eat clean, and find your purpose using the tools and resources you need to achieve real weight loss and transformative healing without ever having to buy another gimmicky fat-sucking wrap or magic protein shake. Eat to Live to Love has been the driving force behind people across the United States to not only change their lives, but to actually take back control. Find out how health coach Linda Lavender can help you become your own hero and transform your life at eattolivetolove.com or call 1-888-440-9795 for a free initial consultation. Stop just dreaming about success and make it happen with Eat to Live to Love. Visit eattolivetolove.com now. That's eat, the number 2, live, the number 2, love.com. Eat to Live to Love. Healing, weight loss, and fitness. And we're back with author Dave Sanderson. Now we get into the part of the show I like to call Quick Success, where you, Dave, can inspire the successors to enhance their lives in the areas of knowledge, health, wealth, and spirituality. Dave, what are you currently doing to enhance your knowledge?
Well, right now, I'm doing really two things. Number one, I read a lot, but I don't read books as much as I listen to books. So number one, I think that's where I get a lot of my knowledge. But secondarily, where I get a lot of knowledge is through listening to podcasts, because I think you can get access, and I call it, and when I talk, is about virtual references. You can get virtual references now so much easier, Antonio, than when I was growing up, when you had to go to the Encyclopedia Britannica to learn anything. Now you can go on a podcast within 5 minutes and listen and get a lesson and learn things. So through podcast and listening, I really expand my worldview dramatically doing that.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. What are you currently doing to enhance your health?
Well, every day I have a ritual. Every day I get up and, I work out before I do anything else, whether it's at 3 o'clock in the morning or it's at 6 o'clock in the morning. I do get my body ready. But, I also have sort of shifted that likewise where, right now I don't need to put a lot of mass on because I'm no longer playing football and sports. So, I'm really sort of shifting to sort of get lean body mass so I can do a lot more cardio. And I'm doing yoga, and I'm trying to get more sleep because I keep reading and listening to, the more sleep you get, the more health you have. So those are the three things I've sort of shifted in the last several months.
What are you currently doing to enhance your wealth?
Well, right now, one of the things I'm doing, and I'm looking at the just instability of what's going on in the world, whether it's the euro or whether it's here locally, in the United States. The one thing I'm doing is investing in gold. I'm transitioning dollars to gold. And I think because the gold is a pretty standard and pretty self-sufficient, resource. So that's what I'm doing right now, which is a strategy that I've learned through a few people that's working well.
What are you currently doing to enhance your spirituality?
Well, right now, one of the things I do is when I speak, one of the things I have a goal is I speak to at least 4 religious or spiritual organizations a year. I've spoken to over 200 churches and spiritual organizations since the plane crashed in the Hudson River. But what that does for me, Antonio, is I get to go to different denominations and hear different opinions and see how people basically have religion in a different way. And it opens my mind to where I was probably pretty closed-minded on how I did things. That one thing right there helps me stay on that end. And plus, the second thing I do is I least once a month blog about something around I've learned in the Bible and a lesson that I learned in the Bible, and I blog about it, and the lesson, and I transition that to a business lesson on what you can learn from business and growing from these lessons in the Bible.
Are there any modern technologies or apps that you use to help you achieve success?
Well, right now, I've really, one thing I've changed is I've really been focusing on LinkedIn right now, where, I think that LinkedIn is a tool that I should have been using a lot more effectively. And I'm learning how to use it more effectively. So I would say right now, if I had to pick one app that I was going to stay with, and if I only had to keep one, it's probably LinkedIn.
What new thing, book, activity, technology, or skill are you really excited to learn and dive into?
The skill. Well, that's interesting. Well, the skill that I really want to get after, and I made it a goal for 2018, is to learn how to sign language. And I've wanted to do this for years, but I made it a goal for next year, because one thing I've realized is I speak to thousands of people a year. Just think if I could be eloquent and do it in sign language, and how much more it would open up for me. Not only different people, but people who have a challenge. It can hear about my challenges that I've had in the modality that they can learn in. So that's the one skill set that I have written down for 2018 to start learning.
And successors, Dave has a special exclusive offer for you. Dave, what is that?
Well, I appreciate being able to do this, because I just produced a video series, which we'll be putting out next year, part of our product set around Moments Matter, my book. And what I like to offer is, if you text 797979 and put the term BRACE, BRACE, the number 4, impact, IMPACT. What I'll do is I'll send you the first video free of my video series, which will be out next year as a part of my product set. And it's about overcoming adversity in uncertain times. Because right now, with what we're seeing, Antonio, the reason I picked this one, there's a lot of ones. I have 11 other ones I could have picked, but what's going on with the hurricanes, the fires, what happened in Las Vegas, the uncertainty in politics right now in the United States right now, I think the people right now need to understand what strategies can you use to overcome these uncertainties in times of challenge.
Successors, you heard that. Get the first video of Dave's series, Overcoming Adversity in Uncertain Times. Text 797979, the word BRACE for impact. That's BRACE, the number 4, IMPACT. Dave, how can our listeners connect with you?
Well, thank you. I'd be honored if they check out my website at davesandersonspeaks.com. We're upgrading it now, but there's a lot of information about where I'm going to be. And once again, if you go on my website, see if I'm going to be in your city, if you would just message me on my website, I would love to have you as my personal guest at the event that I'm going to be at, and I'll put you on my personal guest list. Or you can go to Facebook under Dave Sanderson Speaks. That's where I put a lot of the inspiration I have. LinkedIn, as you heard, is right now where I put a lot of the business lessons and strategies that I've learned and I've implemented that have been successful for me. And that's under David Sanderson, and the Twitter is Dave Sanderson 2, where I've been told that I need to do this every day. So I got Dave Sanderson 2 Twitter, and I start putting my thoughts for the moment on that.
Finally, Dave, what's your definition of success?
Well, the definition I have is to be able to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want, when you want. And I learned that years ago from my first mentor, Bill, because, if you hear me speak, Bill, when I first met Bill was, all I knew about him was he wore a flannel shirt and drove a pickup truck, but I found out he owned 80 movie theaters through North and South Carolina. And he was a very successful man. And he told me that as we were sitting at a Howard Johnson restaurant. He showed me that visually and gave me an instance of what happens when you can do that. And so I've always sort of subscribed. If I can get to that point where I can do what I want, when I want, with whom I want, when I want, then I've had a pretty successful life.
Successors, I hope you've enjoyed my conversation with Dave Sanderson. Please check out more successful free content like this at the4pos.com, as well as rate, review, and subscribe wherever you find podcasts. Thanks for listening, and prepare for success. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you very much.
If you want to do more, earn more, be more, and stay more motivated, visit Amazon.com right now for a copy of Indulge Your Affirmative Motivation Within, 25 Motivations of Personal Development and Life Success. Get it now at Amazon.com. Podcasters, want more listeners? Check out promosharecast.com and join the community today. That's promosharecast.com. Join today and get the first month free, and you'll also receive 50% off for a lifetime membership. Sign up today. PromoSharecast.com.